What's up, guys? Utopia here, coming at you with another retro deck profile. Today we're going to look at my Tengu plant version of Morphtronics. The deck can be really explosive and really fun to play and has some really fun mid to late game combos when you're kind of set up. It's just getting to that mid to late game where the deck struggles. So we've built the deck in order to kind of mitigate that problem. So let's get right into the list here. 3 copies of Celfon. It's actually not the best card in the deck. It's probably the second best card in the deck, but it does facilitate a lot of plays. It being level 1 is kind of what helps you make Trish along with your Scopen plays. I realized that the card didn't really work turn 1 as well as I wanted it to, so I'm playing other cards to mitigate the turn 1 play and give you more options. But right now, Celfon is more of a turn 2, turn 3 card once you've established some board presence to be able to capitalize on that. Obviously, this goes... I'm not saying if you have dupe, that completely changes everything, but even then, it's not even the best dupe target in the deck. What is the best dupe target, at least in this variant, is the Remoten. Obviously, the attack position effect is better than the defense position effect, but both are used throughout the game. It's our dupe target, one of our tuners, and it allows you to go plus and regenerate your engine and allow you to make plays after your initial play has kind of... If you don't win the game on that, but a lot of times you can just win the game on it. But those searches and those extra plays and then giving you food for Leviair is what we use the card for. The other tuner being Scopen. This summons a level 4 guy from your hand in attack position once per turn. It's not one summoned, so you could do it pretty much whenever. And then the defense position effect makes it level 4. Again, this is what lets us make Trish. We just get our level 4 guy, and he's in defense, so he's 4, and then you get a 4, and you use Celfon, and then you make Trishula. That's kind of your play. Or you make Scrap Dragon and target if you've already gone through your Trishula. On to the actual level 4 guys that we do play, and that I would summon 3 Radion. This is actually probably the better turn 1 play is to set it, because it gains 1,000 defense, so it's 19, so it can wall things like Tengu and Thunder King that are pretty common in the format. So yeah, being able to set that and then flip it, and then you could summon any of your other level 4s, aka this guy. And this is what helps you beat over Thunder King, because you can change it to attack after you summon this. So first you would summon this, and then change this to attack, so you get to play around bottomless. So it'd only be 12, then it becomes 2k, and then you can beat over your problem monster. So 2 Slingen. I was originally playing 3 of it, just because you want more targets to summon from your hand when you do the level 3, level 4, make a 7 play. But I wanted to include the Vacuum. I think this card is okay. It's another 1-for-1 target whenever Celfon, like especially like mid-late game, when Celfon isn't just, you're more likely going to miss. But the reason I felt comfortable including it is because I decided to bump the Staplen to 2, so that essentially I took a Slingen and changed it to this so that we still had the same amount of level 4s in deck. Staplen's really good. I like its stall potential. It's won me a couple games. The attack position effect, obviously kind of goofy, but the defense position one can really stall you until you get to your combo pieces. Again, that's kind of what this deck is designed to do, is stall to get to your combo pieces. And again, it's also another good turn 1 play. But the best one is Reborn Tengu. I've decided to include this card. I haven't seen this in a lot of lists. It just helps you facilitate it. When you can put that on the board and then your Celfon can get you a tuner and you can actually do something with it and continue to facilitate the field, especially if you, like, say you use your Celfon effect and it gets warninged, or you make a synchro play with it and that gets warninged, or bottomless or whatever. You have, or even torrential, you have the ability to get like that 2nd and 3rd Tengu and still maintain board presence, where this is where the deck kind of falls apart, is you just don't have access to the board presence because you're pretty normal summon reliant outside of like your junk box, and obviously this format has Monster Reborn in it. 1 Gorz. We're not playing traps. We are, but not really. So we play the 1 Gorz and 1 Valor. This gives you a tuner target off of 1-for-1. I like the card. I like being able to protect Celfon when we need to. The goal is to be able to protect Celfon when we whiff. There are other cards in the deck that help make Celfon good turn 1 as well. I know we talked about how it wasn't that good, but we do facilitate other cards in the deck to help it be a little bit better when we don't have our Tengu or we don't have our set Radion. But like even like this against like Tour Guide turn 1, they're still going to be able to be over your Celfon, so it doesn't like get you there. So that's why we're trying to find creative ways to make Celfon stick. But that's it for the monster lineup, and we'll get into the spells. 2 copies of Accelerator. I tried 3, didn't like it, found it to be a little iffy, but it does put guys back in your deck to make Celfon even more live, so you can return your guy. Unfortunately, it is. It says Morphtronic card. It is Morphtronic monster. There was just one of those misprints, kind of like the original Sirocco, forgetting to say end phase kind of thing. Or miss one forgetting to say target. That's just kind of how it works, or select, I guess, at the time. But yeah, it's just good to get rid of problem cards. The aforementioned 2 copies of Junk Box, where you want to make your fun synchro plays and you want to make your Trishulas and things like that. So we play the 2 copies of Junk Box. But the real reason we're here is our 3 copies of Machine Duplication. We've talked about our previous targets and things like that, so we've talked about those. The one thing you do have to be careful with this card is, let's say, because a lot of times you want to go Celfon effect and then dupe, so you leave more guys in your deck. So let's say you hit like a Remoten off of there, you're gonna want to be able to, you want to dupe the Remoten, not the Celfon in most instances, because that's where your play goes. So you typically want to Celfon first, but if you hit Radion, you have to summon it in defense because it takes you out of duplication range. So that's an important thing to keep in mind when using this card. And Radion is that it can take you out of dupe range because of the attack gain of that card. We talked about 1-for-1 earlier. Celfon is just so important. 1 Pot of Avarice. I don't know if I would play this card if I wasn't playing Tengu, just because you want to have guys in your graveyard for Remoten. Remoten facilitates so many of your big plays, so I don't know if I would play it, but the Tengus make this card live super quickly. Mindcon, because it's probably the best spell in the format outside of the Trinity. It just does so many things for you. Book of Moon, again, we're not really playing a big trap lineup, but this card lets you play it on your turn and you don't have to set it. And we are playing Landoise, so it's a defensive card that we can set, that we can activate when we draw it. And you can put down, like, because you're not going to win when Christie is up, so you can put it down and then play the game. The Trinity that we mentioned, but yeah, we're playing Landoise, so that's another reason we're playing the Book of Moon instead of trap cards. These are self-explanatory. You play these in just about every deck. 2 MSTs. I tried 1, didn't really like it. I think I went away from Accelerator for these, so I went from 3 Accelerator, 1 MST, because like I don't need that many MSTs. But this card just ended up being more versatile to where if you don't have a Morphtronic you want to turn, you have a Morphtronic you want to summon. So this allows you to break the back row and then continue to use that Morphtronic rather than try and rely on what your top deck is going to be. For traps, Dustshoot, pretty obvious we're going to play this card. And then I was playing one Mirror Force. That's what the Veiler became. I moved the Mirror Force to the sideboard because a lot of people will board out like heavy MSTs against you. These are the only cards. So this is really important to be able to protect Celfon from things. So if your opponent commits to the board, goes battle phase, you flip this, and then you can go off and kind of break their board back. I just felt like this card was important to be able to include to protect that Celfon, to be able to get multiple uses out of it, because it being a 100 attack, like it's just going to get killed by anything in the format that's not Effect Veiler. So I decided to include these 3 trap cards. Now on to the awkwardly edited in extra deck, because we originally filmed this segment with 14 cards. 1 Armory Arm, just because you have level 3 tuners and you have Celfon level 1, you can make a level 4 pretty easily. 1 Catastor, again, if you summon Scopen in defense, you're able to make this pretty easily. 1 Nat Beast, so this is another reason. You play this card because, like I said, you don't want to Celfon turn 1, but if you dupe with the Celfon, you can get Remoten off of one of the 3, so you essentially have the ability to go turn 1 Nat Beast, which is really crippling against a lot of decks in the format. So you do play this card because you can take advantage of it. It's not super consistent, but essentially if you just hit the Remoten, you have 3 level 1s, so you end on a Celfon and this guy. We don't play Barkion. That's just too much of a minus. It's worth it just to keep one of them up. Brionac, again, you don't make 6s a lot, but card's good enough. Black Rose, and you play Mindcon. We play a lot of 7s. Black Rose, you can play 2 of this. I've opted to play a bunch of other 7s instead, but 1 Black Rose, 1 Ancient Fairy Dragon. You decide deck the Closed Forest, so you can just use this to search it in the Gravekeeper matchup. Scrap Archfiend, just because you need a beater a lot of the time. I wish it was 2750, just because of that Hyperion threshold. You do play the Ancient Seeker Wyvern because Scopen is a light tuner, so you're able to access this pretty easily. So and it can lead to some funny OTK lines if you're able to set it up with your big Remoten dupe play. Landoise, which was mentioned before, you have a lot of spells. You're running 16 in the main board, so you can support this card fairly easily. For 8s, it's the very staple 8s of Stardust and Scrap. These are the two that are just the most common in the format, and they just kind of work the best. Scrap Dragon, a lot of times if Trishula is not very good, you can use this, and then just you have the Celfon typically to pop off of it if you don't think it's going to survive, and it being 28 is pretty relevant as well. A copy of Trish, because you can make this fairly easily with your Scopen in defense, a level 4, like your Radion or something like that, and then the Celfon, and that's 9. And then the Leviair, which I wish I could find a room for the second one. Maybe you can cut Nat Beast, but it's just so good in certain matchups, especially like Hero Beat and stuff like that. But I would love to be able to find room for the second one if you could do the Remoten play. But it just kind of feels win more because you can go Leviair into a 7 or Leviair into this, depending on what you banish and what you want to target and all that. But it's just how far wide you're able to go and what you want to do. But those two are pretty typically the ones you want to go for. And the Utopia. So you need something to capitalize off of Mind Control and being able to take Thunder King and being able to take Tengu and have a 4 that you can just like summon like a Slingen or a Remoten or something like that, or a Radion, excuse me, and then just be able to make like a rank 4. So this is the reason you run the Utopia. For the sideboard, 2 Cyber Dragons and Chimeratech. It makes sense. Side deck and Chimeratech. It just makes sense against certain matchups to be able to like out cards like Catastor and stuff like that. If you bring these in, you can just take something out. You're not going to make like Scrap Archfiend or something. Depends on the matchup. But yeah, the 2 Cyber Dragons going second. It's good against Hero Beat. The second, Effect Veiler. 2 copies of Max C. 2 Leeching the Light. So this card is really good in any deck that can put out a bunch of guys because like they all gain everything. So you could just like juice your dude. So if you have like the dude play and you just leeching, you don't have to make anything. You just leeching and just kill them through it because you have so many big guys. So that's like Celfon just facilitates this card. Machine Dupe facilitates this card. You can capitalize off it. If there's something in the sideboard you don't like, you can just bump this card up to 3 because it's good against both heroes and agents. There's Shining and Alias and those Thunder Kings and stuff. Close Forest that I mentioned earlier for Gravekeepers. And the third, MST, because you typically side that. Mirror Force that we mentioned earlier. Definitely won't play that card. 2 copies of Blackhorn. I don't know. I feel like, because our group has played Columbus format in the past, it looks like with more and more people going to Toronto, we're just going to go to Toronto because we're like the last people that play Columbus. These were Shadow Mirrors for a Dark World matchup. So I decided to put these in. I like this card. I've seen it a few times. I've seen a couple lists of this play the actual like vanilla Horn of Heaven, like the really old one. I don't know if I go that far. A lot of people are like, yeah, it's just like you just yeet yourself on after you do nothing with it. And it's like, I don't know. But this card, I like it against plants because all their big plays outside of like normal Thunder King are like Synchro plays and BLS and Exceed plays. So I don't know. I think this card works. You can also play Debunk. And then Royal Decrees, because again, we're not playing trap cards, so there's no reason to not just chuck these in. I've never been a 3 Decree guy. It depends definitely on the deck and the format, but like even like in this format, like TGs have access to like Wonder Magician and stuff like that. You can bring in the extra Veiler in that matchup to protect the Decree because that's kind of how you win. But like, I really don't know. Like Decree is super important in that matchup, but like if they have access to it, they have access to it. It is what it is. So, and Veiler is just like typically not good unless they're on the Tour Guide build. I've seen a few TG decks, but like they're going to bring in more skill drains against you, so the Tour Guides are likely to come out. So that's kind of the mind games you really have to play with this deck. But yeah, that's the list. Let me know what you guys think of the deck, and like and subscribe for more retro format content. Thanks for watching, guys.